I wanted to start by asking you, how would you define the Austrian school of football?
Austria was always famous for its technical football, not so physical in former times, but of course it changed in the last years because athleticism is so important in every sport, and especially in football. And of course, but especially in the youth, as children, you should develop your technical skills. That's we call it the golden age of learning. It's of course it's a little bit affected, let's say, by Red Bull Salzburg. It was in the last 10 years the most successful team. With Ralf Rangnik arriving and Roger Schmidt as a manager. And then it was more about pressing. But I always, let's say, I want to divide. One is the development, and in development it's more about technique and individual development. And of course, then in adult football it's about performance. Because you need to win games, but it helps when you have good technical players, when you have players who understand the game.
Going then just across the board to Germany, obviously you worked in both countries, and talking about Dortmund, that amazing season they had in 11-12. What was it about the pressing that worked well? Because it was the peak of their pressing that season, wasn't it?
Sometimes you get an influence, you don't know why, but it was for me the end of my career, and let's say looking for my second career after retiring. Yes, Dortmund was impressive because they didn't have it looked like the best individual players, but the best team. And then it's always, okay, why does this work so great? And I think, Jurgen Klopp was one of the first ones, and he was always talking about counter press. And yes, in Austria we were talking about counter press, and I was in my coaching program at that time after retiring, and they asked me to write a dissertation, how I see football, how I want to play. And I remember, and I wrote there, I would like to play with counter press, like Borussia Dортmund at that times, but I have no idea how to train it because it was new in Austria. We never talked about it, and so fortunately for me, then I became assistant coach of Roger Schmidt and Ralf Rangnik, and there I learned the tools how you can train it, because you can show the players, you can't just talk about it, you have to train it, and it's a daily exercise, it's daily progress, and so yes, this is how I started my career as a manager.
So they played 4-2-3-1, but without the ball, they played like a 4-4-2. And I remember Klopp saying that it was because it made the running lines easier. Could you explain that?
The easiest system to press for me is 4-4-2. It's pretty clear. And I think you need at least 4 players to press high. Let's say that's a little bit the difference compared to our 3-4-3 we are playing now. That's also why we play more from a midfield block. But when we press high, we usually press in a 4-4-2, and how we do it, we just put one wing back high, we shift, and we have a 4-4-2. So it's not so difficult, and as you see, it's not a lot to do. Let's say it's 10 yards by a few players, and everybody has to know what to do and when to do. And it's just to get pressure in the build-up of the opposition. And on the other side, of course, when you attack, and also Dortmund at the time, they had very attacking fullbacks. So that means you have 2 strikers or a 10 making runs. So when, let's say, this player is marked, at that time most of the teams played a back 4. And then also, when he came into midfield, he had to make the runs. So always to threaten the space behind the defensive line. And of course, then when you have the winger, and they didn't always play with wide wingers, so also with, let's say, in the half space. Now it's more than the half space runs. And then they also had the attacking fullback. They had the player here, they had the striker, they had the 10 who made the run, they had the opposite winger, so they had many players in the box. And I think usually these players were responsible, the 2 sixes, usually the far fullback. So when you're maybe 1 goal down, you need to score, you can also send him in the attack. And of course the 2 center backs, and these players were responsible for the shape behind the ball. And that's why I always say, for me, you see, it's now we started in a 4-2-3-1, and when I say we are blue, in a 3-4-3 system. So when we attack, we also have to strike with our 2 10s. We have the wing backs high, we have the 2 sixes. Let's see, that's how we start. So, and then when we attack from the right side with the wing back, it's clear we want the striker in the box, we want the 10 in the box. So we have the near 10 in the box, we have the far wing back, we have the 2 sixes and the back 3. So see, it's the same. And when you watch us, if the opposition has 1 striker who stays up high, we ask one of our back 3 to step up high. And then we have the same shape than here. So for me, the system is not really relevant. It's more how you want your players to behave, how you want to attack the box, how you want to behave behind the ball, to organize the rest defensive. For us, that's how we are playing. We always want to have a +1 in the last line. If you are playing man-to-man, so we always want to have this. And then we're always telling the players we have to control this area to not get a problem in this area. You organize your counter press during the time you are attacking, but you have to organize it behind the ball. And then when you lose it, of course, then it means from all the players to make pressure and the far side, of course, to recover.
You just mentioned that you liked the 4-4-2, and I know a lot of people here obviously relate you with the back three, with the 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, actually. Do you think people sometimes they get too hung up on the initial shape? Like you just said, I really like a 4-4-2. It's all very fluid in the end.
Exactly. Yeah. It's too much talk about the system, but I think it should be like this, that let's say we coaches, that we are, let's say, more pundits than the fan who watches the game. And then for him or for them it should be fine talking about the system. But again, I show it very, let's say, very easily, let's say that just the patterns we have. So this is our starting. So and then sometimes, okay, when he is high and he passes wide, he jumps, he moves. So what system we have? 4-4-2. Yeah? So then he comes here. So it's more or less the same. Yeah? So the other pattern what we have, and we see, especially when we press, it's very often it becomes a 4. If he is wider, yeah, with them high, and their 10 is somewhere here in between. We ask our centre back to step into midfield. So now he has to drop. It's a 4-2-3-1. Yeah. So I could press stop during the game, and you will find, I think, more 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 shapes than in a 3-4-3 or 5-4-1.
You also mentioned Pep's Barcelona as one of your influences. So many managers mention this, but we don't necessarily relate you with possession-based football. What was it about that team? Was it because everything was really through the middle? They were breaking lines with that midfield.
Yes, first of all, I think you can't copy Barcelona team with Busquets, Iniesta and Xavi in midfield. Maybe one of the best football players in the last 20 years. But what I learned, especially for me, they played a 4-3-3. It was high and wide wingers. And of course, then Messi was the false 9 the first time. Yeah. Always having triangles. Here, let's see here, a diamond shape, diagonal and vertical play, not really square passes. Here, the same, with the 8s, you have triangle here, you have a diamond shape here. You have a diamond shape here, you have a triangle here, and when he's high, you have a triangle here. Always triangles for diagonal and vertical play. And that's what I could see, many advantages here. So first of all, when you pass diagonal, he can have an open body shape. So when you just pass, let's say, straight balls, usually the body shape is closed. Exactly then, that means it's easier to get pressure from him behind there. Whereas here, you have an open body shape, you see him, peripheral view, and then you can solve it with one touch. And I think, especially Iniesta, Xavi, that was just one touch football here, because they saw everything, what happens on the pitch. I think what we are doing then is the same with our midfielders. We have it very often. The situation, we pass here, and then they pass with one touch to the 10s. So diagonal, open body shape, whereas the more we come into attack, the more vertical we want to play.
Yeah, you mentioned the inverted fullbacks, and you like to open the pitch a lot with your fullbacks. So what are the advantages to having these inverted fullbacks, and what are the advantages of just opening the pitch?
No, I think it's sometimes when we play a very deep block, we send him high, and we play. This is what Pep is doing very often. With 3 and 1 or 2 and 2. That's how we played in the FA Cup final. With 2 and 2. Same setup, and then being very fluid. Sometimes he drops, sometimes he rolls out. Then it's very, very similar. You need your best football players in the tight areas. Of course. Here.
And this is what worked so well in the FA Cup final, you think?
No, it worked. We controlled it. Yes. And our adjustment in the FA Cup final was, this is their trap. They want our sixes to jump, but find a space behind. We told our sixes, be patient and stay. And we said, okay, you front three, you have to control these 4 players. We don't give them so we always try to keep this 5-4 here. And then what happens then, of course, what you have to control, so we didn't give them the pocket, then they go wide. And of course, then they have Doku, that game, and Savinho. And then it was, okay, hard work for our 10s, you always have to double up. And what we know, what we can do well with our centre backs, we can defend the box well, we can defend the crosses well. We couldn't avoid anything. So if you want to control the pocket, we have to give them the width. And we decided to give them the width. The 1v1 player, they had to double up. And if they cross, we have to defend the box. I think they had 25 crosses or something like this. They had one big chance, to be fair, with Haaland first half. But everything else we did really well. So this was the adjustment. Everybody knows what to do, having the confidence and the belief that we really can win every single game. So this is what happens, of course, on the pitch, in the training pitch, but that's also, I think, creating and winning environment where everybody believes in it. And so that's at least, in my perspective, at least as important as the tactical shape.